and welcome to a special edition of the State of the Fleet Industry video series produced by Automotive Fleet Magazine. And this video series is designed to put a spotlight on key leaders in the fleet management industry. And today, I have the honor to interview Kelley Hatlee, Senior Advisor, National Service Department for Enterprise Fleet Management. And the two of us will be discussing fleet maintenance trends and their impact on fleet operating costs. So with that introduction, thank you for joining us, Kelley.
Hi, Mike. Thank you. It's good to speak to you again.
Likewise. Yeah, in fact, it's been almost, what would it be, 8 months since we last spoke, November 2020. And at that time, we discussed the maintenance landscape at that particular point in time, and we discussed EVs, ADAS complexity, labor rates, mobile maintenance service providers. And with that as background, how would you describe today's fleet maintenance landscape? What's the current landscape for fleet maintenance management in 2021?
Well, Mike, the industry continues to not only experience challenges with vehicle availability, but also replacement parts. And this issue has overwhelmed shops and caused delay in vehicle deliveries and repairs. And we've seen that backordered parts and labor shortages are playing a big role in this, and at a time when demand was already high. So now more than ever, it's a priority for fleets to implement a thoughtful fleet preservation strategy and preventive maintenance plan. That's critical, and we've been working with our clients to modify their approach when it comes to vehicles they should be replacing and help them enact alternative strategies like extending the normal cycle of their vehicles so they can continue to meet the fleet and business needs. It's also important to be proactive and flexible to avoid potential delays. For example, we work with our clients in many industries, and each of their situations is very different. For our listeners, now is the time to meet with your fleet management partner and see what opportunities are available for your fleet and ways to help make it operate more efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a very crucial aspect of a fleet maintenance program is your preventative maintenance, your scheduled maintenance program. And one of the trends that's been happening for well over a decade now has been the lengthening of PM intervals. And there's been a concern among a lot of fleet managers that while this is good, it lessens the downtime on fleet vehicles for PM, it does lengthen the time that a driver is last in a maintenance facility. And there's certain things that are done at that time, tire checks, brake checks, and so on. I was wondering, what sort of advice could you provide to fleets that should be communicated to drivers to avoid unintended consequences of these longer preventative maintenance intervals?
Yes, yeah, you're right. The oil change intervals are longer than what they used to be in the past. So the first thing that comes to mind is tire rotations, not just to extend the life of the tires, but also to get the tires off the vehicle so that the brakes can be checked. If you can catch a brake job before it becomes metal to metal, then that could save the cost of brake rotors, potential brake caliper replacement. And also during oil changes, it's a common practice to do a multi-point inspection. Those multi-point inspections can also uncover other issues like maybe fluid leaks or loose or worn parts that can also then catch them before they become unscheduled repairs and possibly even roadside assistance events. So since fleets aren't going into shops as often as they used to in years past, it's important to make sure that the oil changes are being done on time and keeping up with major recommended services based on manufacturer guidelines. And most importantly, a well-maintained fleet improves driver safety, which is a top priority for our clients. Mm-hmm. In addition, both new and used car inventories right now are low, and that means that in the short term, taking care of existing vehicles, keeping them both safe and operational is a good way to strengthen your fleet integrity and extend the life cycle of those vehicles. Many unscheduled repairs are preventable, believe it or not. Preventive maintenance is important to avoid these costly repairs and to help prevent downtime. So preventive maintenance maximizes uptime by reducing the repair costs, preventing lost revenue from when the vehicles aren't on the road. Mm-hmm. Also, organizations can leverage preventive maintenance to increase the resale value of their vehicles when they're ready to sell and also by keeping a complete record of the maintenance that's been done and working with your fleet management partner to build this in as part of a larger maintenance program. So I mentioned at the beginning that driver safety is a priority and that preventive maintenance can help reinforce that. However, it goes even further than that. by having a good preventive maintenance plan in place, organizations can increase employee morale even by showing employees that management takes vehicle condition and driver safety very seriously, and also the company brand. A well-maintained vehicle, fleet vehicles are rolling billboards, and a
Hmm.
well cared for vehicle helps project that professional image.
It's very true. So we spent a lot of time talking about scheduled maintenance. You touched upon unscheduled maintenance. I'm wondering if you might be able to elaborate that further on what fleets could do in that area.
Yeah, so unscheduled repairs can often lead to roadside events and hidden costs. There are a lot of hidden costs with unscheduled repairs, and a lot of these hidden costs can be a tow bill, can be a rental bill, can be a driver being paid while they're not being productive, sitting on the side of the road waiting for a tow truck, or sitting in a shop waiting room, revenue lost while the vehicle is down in the shop. It can also, you could even extrapolate this as far a cost of unscheduled repairs being an unhappy customer. If a driver is late for an appointment or is a no-show because the vehicle broke down, or if a project deadline is missed because the fleet vehicle has equipment on it that has to do the job that does the project, and now the fleet vehicle is not available, an unsatisfied customer could even be a potential soft cost of unscheduled repairs. So these previously mentioned costs, they only compound now in this current period that we're in of labor and parts supply shortages. So that's preventive maintenance is even more important. And I mentioned earlier about roadside assistance, and right now there's an industry-wide delays for roadside assistance because there's according to Towbook, there's been a double-digit reduction in available drivers at roadside service providers, and that's impacting turnaround time with tows, and also it changes how the tow providers are prioritizing those services.
Those are good points, and the reality of today. But what sort of advice could you offer to fleets to try to minimize these roadside events?
So most common vehicle issues that lead to roadside events are preventable, as I mentioned, and some examples would include things like dead batteries, failures due to fluid loss, so an engine overheating due to a coolant leak, or an engine failure due to an oil leak, transmission failures due to just lack of maintenance and fluid changes. Diesels, for example, diesels in particular. On a diesel, a severely clogged air filter can actually cause a drivability concern, or a clogged fuel filter, or a lack of diesel particulate filter regenerations can cause issues as well and lead to a roadside event. So that's just an example of some services that can easily be prevented by just keeping up with the maintenance. And being proactive and conducting these regular maintenance on vehicles, that's just the first step. Um, Also having a plan in place to alert drivers when the oil changes are due. Enterprise Fleet Management has a solution for this, making sure that the drivers are being followed up with if an oil change is overdue. And that, again, going back to those multi-point inspections, making sure those are being done. Another thing, Mike, to keep in mind is that tire replacements. So this is something that's changed. You asked what has changed in this year. So we're seeing in the news about the different commodity shortages right now, and rubber is one of those commodities that's seeing a shortage. So don't wait until the tires become completely bald to take them in for service. Make sure that the tires are being replaced when they reach the wear indicators, or perhaps just before. Don't wait until they're completely bald. And that kind of leads me into one other thing too, just kind of looking at it big picture. Don't wait for small problems to become big problems. We all know that with fleet vehicles, uptime is a serious matter. We need these vehicles on the road, and there's kind of a pressure to avoid taking them to the shop as much as possible. But also, if the vehicle is making a strange noise, or the check engine light is on, get it checked out as soon as possible, because waiting until the last minute can cause a small problem to become a big problem. And then the vehicle may be undrivable, and then it's in the shop, and now parts aren't available. So make sure to get those things checked out before it becomes a major issue.
Yeah, it's a
And
great takeaway and great advice to offer to fleet managers. As we're reaching the end of our allotted time, would like to take advantage of the fact that we're together talking, and you're experience in the industry. Can we take a look forward? What do you think the fleet maintenance landscape is going to be like for the balance of 2021 and into 2022 calendar year?
Yeah, so we're in close communication with many of our industry partners, and the feedback that we're hearing from them is that they're expecting to begin seeing improvements in this second half of 2021 and expecting to see continued improvement through 2022. So hopefully some of these challenges that we're facing today will will begin to subside as time goes by, and hopefully sooner than later.
hmm Well, we all wish that to be the case, and then we're all rooting for that. But we've reached our allotted time now, and I want to thank you, Kelley, for joining us today and offering another great interview and insights into what's going on in the fleet maintenance side of our business.
Thank you, Mike. It was my pleasure.
And my pleasure also. Thank you very much.